The old warehouse stood alone, a monolith of rusted metal and shattered glass. It was on the edge of Whispering Pines, Minnesota. Locals whispered tales about it, dark stories of people vanishing, swallowed whole by the shadows. No one dared to go near. It stood as a silent sentinel to some unspeakable horror. The warehouse had stood empty for decades. It was once a bustling hub of industry. Now only rats and dust called it home. But something else lingered there, a palpable sense of dread. The air itself felt heavy, thick with unspoken terror. The stories started small, whispers of strange noises at night. Then people started to disappear. First, it was a homeless man seeking shelter, then a group of teenagers out for a thrill. Each disappearance followed the same pattern. They entered the warehouse and were never seen again, and it was about to draw in an unsuspecting journalist. Mark Riley was a journalist with a thirst for the unknown. He had built his career on uncovering the truth. When he heard the tales of the warehouse in Whispering Pines, he knew he had to investigate.
I arrived in Whispering Pines on a bleak November day. The town was small, quiet. The residents were wary of outsiders. They spoke of the warehouse in hushed tones. Their fear was palpable.
Mark listened intently, taking notes, piecing together the puzzle. He could feel the weight of their gazes. They knew why he was there. He stood before the warehouse. It was more imposing than he had imagined. The metal was rusted, stained with time and neglect. The windows were boarded up, but some had broken, offering glimpses into the darkness within.
I ignored the unease creeping up my spine and approached the warehouse. The air grew colder, damper. The stench of decay hit me, a sickly sweet smell that spoke of rot and oblivion.
The air inside the warehouse was thick with dust, and the silence was deafening. Light struggled to penetrate the grime-covered windows, casting long, eerie shadows. Mark's footsteps echoed in the vast emptiness as he moved cautiously deeper into the building. He shone his flashlight around, each beam revealing more decay and desolation. The stench worsened the further he went. It wasn't just the smell of decay. There was something else, something metallic and sharp. Blood.
I noticed it first on the floor, a dark, dried stain that stretched out like a macabre painting. As I continued, I found more stains, some small, others alarmingly large. This wasn't just an abandoned building. Something horrific had happened here.
In the center of the warehouse, Mark found what looked like an old operating table. It was rusted and covered in something he didn't want to identify. Thick leather straps hung limply from the sides, suggesting their previous use in restraining someone. He found scalpels, forceps, and other surgical instruments scattered on a nearby tray, each coated in a thick layer of dust and something else that glinted ominously in the dim light. The warehouse was a labyrinth of shadows and echoing silence. The deeper Mark went, the more unsettling it became. A noise echoed through the warehouse, a dragging sound like chains being pulled across the concrete floor.
Pauses. What was that?
Mark froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He listened intently, but the sound didn't repeat. It was as if the warehouse itself was playing tricks on him, feeding his growing fear. He told himself it was just an animal, a stray dog perhaps, but deep down he knew better. There was something else here.
Come on, Mark, just an animal, right?
He continued deeper into the warehouse, drawn by an unseen force. He found a room, its door slightly ajar. He pushed it open, his flashlight beam dancing across the interior. It was an office of sorts, with a desk, a chair, and a filing cabinet. The air was thick with the smell of decay, but there was something else too, a faint, sweet scent, like decaying flowers.
Ugh, what is that smell?
He moved towards the desk, his hand trembling slightly as he reached out and opened a drawer. Inside, he found a leather-bound journal filled with frantic scribblings, written in a language he didn't recognize. Some of the pages had strange diagrams and sketches depicting twisted figures, their bodies contorted in unnatural positions. Mark pressed play on the video camera, and the screen flickered to life. The footage was grainy, but he could make out a figure in a white coat.
Welcome to my domain. You are about to witness the future of human evolution.
The doctor's voice was calm, almost soothing, but the images on the screen were anything but. Victims, their faces twisted in agony, were strapped to chairs, subjected to unspeakable tortures.
Screams, no, please stop! Whispers, oh my God, what is this?
The camera panned to a table filled with surgical instruments, each one more menacing than the last. The doctor continued his monologue, describing his experiments in chilling detail.
Pain is a necessary component of progress. Through suffering, we achieve greatness.
Mark felt a wave of nausea wash over him. He wanted to turn away, but he couldn't. He was drawn to the horror unfolding before him.
This is inhuman.
The video ended abruptly, leaving Mark in stunned silence. The reality of what he had just witnessed began to sink in. Mark turned to leave the office, but he was stopped in his tracks by a chilling voice.
Going somewhere, Mr. Riley?
Gulps. Who are you?
The doctor stepped out of the shadows, his eyes glinting with a malevolent light.
I am the architect of a new world. And you, Mr. Riley, are about to become a part of it.
Mark's heart raced as the doctor advanced towards him, a scalpel gleaming in his hand.
Stay back. I won't let you do this.
It's too late for that. The process has already begun.
Mark backed away, his mind racing for a way to escape. But the doctor was relentless, his footsteps echoing ominously in the darkened room.
Desperately. There has to be a way out.
The doctor's sinister smile widened.
There is no escape, Mr. Riley.
Mark's eyes darted around, searching for any possible exit. Mark's desperation fueled his movements as he darted through the warehouse, the doctor's sinister laughter echoing behind him.
You can't run forever, Mr. Riley.
He stumbled upon a door marked exit and threw it open, only to be confronted by a police officer.
Stop right there. What's going on here?
You have to help me. There's a madman in there.
The officer's eyes widened as she took in Mark's disheveled appearance and the terror in his eyes.
All right, calm down. We'll get you out of here.
As they made their way out, the screams of the victims echoed through the warehouse one last time.
Screams. Help us! We have to save them. We can't just leave them there.
We'll get back up. Don't worry, we'll come back for them.
Mark and the officer burst out into the night, the cold air hitting them like a wall. But the nightmare was far from over.
This isn't over. We have to stop him.
And with that, they disappeared into the darkness, determined to end the doctor's reign of terror.